Hey, welcome back to stage 4 of Tour De Zwift. So as you know, I've been doing these events just to test my fitness, but today I decided I needed a hard workout for this week. So I said to myself, why don't I try to use my fitness, see how far it gets me, and actually really try to race this event. We're going to do the long version of stage 4, so category A, and on the day there was around 300 riders or so, and this is the course. So 300 of us were doing the Petit Boucle in France. It's one of the other maps. So far we've seen Watopia, we've seen Innsbruck, and we've seen Mercury, and now we're seeing France. So this one is almost 61k and 480 meters of gain. You can see that basically it's a lot of flats. There's a couple of little bumps and some roller sections you'll see there that looks like a sawtooth pattern, and then the big shark tooth. And then again, we do the same thing. So what it is, it's a 2-loop course, and you'll see all the segments there on the side as well. So let's show you what the map kind of looks like. So this is the entire map of France. So you're seeing there in the top section, that is where we'll be riding. And then you'll see there's a secondary line that loops down in towards the southeast. That's actually Mont Ventoux, which is a very famous Tour de France climb. And I think it is the largest climb in the entire game. I did a race on this and it was like an hour and a half plus of climbing. So now the way that it looks today for us is we're going to be going here and looping around the outside of this. So you'll see basically what we're doing is 2 tours on the outside of this outer loop and using the inner loop as the way to reverse ourselves. So a lot of good roads. I've ridden this course quite a few times. I wouldn't say I'm intimately familiar with it, but I am quite familiar with it. My whole goal was front pack. How long can you be front pack? So the other day when we did the other ride, I found that I was in the front pack for around 27 kilometers. So my whole goal today was to try to beat that 27 kilometer mark. We can see that there's a little bit of a break taking place here in the first 5 minutes. I look back, the pack isn't closing us, but I saw this group of about 5 or 6 riders going up the road. Maybe it's around 10. And I decided not to wait around, not to see if the pack was going to bring them back, but to make sure I put a push in. When you've got groups of 3 and 4 and 500 people joining these events, what happens is a lot of them are coming late, and there's what's called late join. Up to 30 minutes into the ride, you can join. You don't have to miss the entire event, so it gives a little bit of leniency to people. In these events where they're so large, what I notice is when late people join, you'll see that, like that rider that just zipped by there, they join into the front pack so that they're given the opportunity to ride with the front of the group. And if they can't ride with the front of the group, then what happens is obviously they fall back and then they fall into the group that they fit in. Being in the front early on actually has quite the advantage because all of these other people are joining as you're in a small group. And that's why when I saw 4 to 6 riders go up the road, I was like, well, this isn't going to be 4 to 6 riders. If I am in that pack for the first 30 minutes, it's going to grow organically through the late joiners. And some of those late joiners won't be able to hang on and stay in the pack, and some of them will. So if 30 people join, maybe 10 of those 30 are capable of being in the front here. Now that group that was 4 or 6 is now 14 or 16, and that's definitely enough riders to stay away from any other group. Once you have 10 riders, you're golden. What I'm doing here in the first little bit is just, hanging in the front, making sure that I'm there, trying to figure out exactly what the makeup of the group is, who's here. That's not like the other Flamme Rouge event where you know because you're in a Category A race that everybody's a Category A rider, because the categories in this event are really distinguishing the distances. So long, standard, and short. You don't know who is who in this group. You don't know what riders are capable of things, which ones aren't. And at 25k, that would tell me, okay, who's in the front group here that belongs in the front group. I'm just kind of staying in the pack. I'm trying to find, like usual, what is the right wattage to be putting out. I'm also noticing there's quite a few Canadians on this event. I actually did this in the evening. So I did this Sunday, January 21st at 5 p.m. And that gave me like the entire day to kind of get up and eat and do other things and then be fully fueled coming into this ride. It makes a difference. Maybe not for everybody, but definitely for me, waking up and not having eaten before doing like a really hard effort, you definitely notice a difference. That's why I usually try to get up if I'm racing or anything out in real world. I try to get up and eat 3 hours before the event, something really simple that goes through and just gives your body everything that you need. There's a lot that you lose during sleep because it's being used to get through your recovery. This week, leading up to this event, I took an extra day's rest. Usually I do 2 rest days a week, and I just came off a rest week, of course, after the whole Tour de Watopia. But usually when I do something like that taxing, I'll take a few more rest days along the way as well. I knew I was feeling a bit drained. So whenever I'm feeling drained, I skip training, or I'll do much reduced session when it comes to the intensity. I took the extra day off. I used it to just recover. I got extra sleep in. We're at the 10K mark, and you can see we're going above 40K an hour. Considering that we're going to be climbing today, if we can average something around there, that would be great. Something else that I wanted to mention about this is Petit Boucle. It's the longest route in France. Total of 8 segments on today's stage. There we go through the first sprint. Now we're going to do basically this sprint, which is the Pavé. We're going to do another sprint, which is Ballon. And then we have the Marina sprint, and we're going to do both of those in forward and reverse directions because we're doing 2 loops. Not really worried about the sprints in the front of the pack. When you're usually in the front, there's usually not somebody there who's a sprinter. It's acting more like a real world breakaway would be. I was anticipating nobody's really going to be giving their all hitting these sprints. Unless, like I said, there's somebody who joins late and they're leaving early. Maybe they just come for a quick workout. You never know what the makeup of the group is going to be. On top of those 4 sprints, there's also 4 climbs. Now, 2 of the climbs I don't really consider a climb. It's more of a sprint. Here's the next one. It's the aqueduct. So this is considered a climb, but really it's not very long. It's 400 meters total. Of the 400 meters, you're talking only 150 to 200 meters is uphill, and then the rest of it is a sprint, as you can see. I didn't know if people would go hard on that one, but I was prepared to. I was the second fastest over the group. Mildly shocked that, okay, I'm in good fitness. That's the first test. So, okay, I'm climbing just as good as the front. On the downhill, just make sure I get in the pack, it's safe, make sure that I'm saving as much energy as I possibly can. They always push away and pull away from me when we're going downhill, so I gotta really be on top of things and surge when I need to. So we're going through a little village here now that we're out of the aqueduct, so we're going to go through this village. There is a lot of pavé in this course. Now, pavé is like the cobblestone roadways. So you'll notice that when we were doing that last sprint, and you'll see it again when we do it later on, that there's that surface, and again, that surface feels different to me than the wooden bridges, and that feels a little bit different to the sand and a little bit different to the stone. I think there's a total of like 12 or 14 different surfaces that my trainer can replicate. This one is definitely the most pronounced. It's the bumpiest of them all, but a lot of this course is actually tarmac, so we don't have to worry too much. I'm calling out the sprints. I'm calling out the segments again. I did create myself a cheat sheet for this event because I did come into it thinking, okay, I want to race to see how high up I can finish. So in order to make sure that I gave myself the best opportunity, I just took notes like usual, and created a cheat sheet. I know when everything's coming, and as always, I just usually throw it out and let everyone else know as well. Now, not everybody's going to see the message. It only comes up for a minute, as you can see. So the next sprint is coming here. It's a Ballon sprint, and it's a pretty short one, kind of downhilly as well. And I knew that we had a couple sprinters. We started seeing a couple people taking off and trying to push for that line. But I'm starting to just pay attention to names, looking around, seeing who's who, what the names of everyone is, looking over and watching them when they do the sprint, how fast are they going, what's their watt per kilos, and just seeing, exactly what company I'm in. And here you can see they pushed after they went through that sprint, so I have to do a little bit more effort and get back into the group. And once we're in the group, we're pushing to the front. I'm trying to find out in this first 30 minutes who's staying and who's going. So I'm trying to just push it a little bit, but not for too long. Go on the front, 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, pushing at or above threshold, and just seeing who's going to fall off the back and who's going to follow and who's kind of responding. Because then if somebody's responding is they're here to race. Like that's where their mindset is at. So whereas some other people might be just like, that's too much for me. I didn't come here today to race. Because again, these events are not official races. There is the epic race version of them. I have not tried one yet. I was thinking of doing that for stage 5 or stage 6. But for this one, I wanted to come in with the largest group. I wanted to see, with the maximum amount of competition, what kind of placement can I have. Here we are running at the 20K mark, and you can see, again, we're under 30 minutes, so we're averaging over 40K an hour easily now. So you can see the nice air balloons in the distance, and the scenery of this course is really nice. It feels very countryside. There's a section in the course where we'll see sunflowers, fences here, which are pretty traditional for keeping livestock. There's other little things throughout the section, like aqueducts in France are pretty prevalent from what I've been told, and what I've seen on the Tour de France, so that kind of represents it as well. I'm not sure how true to life the course is. I know that the climb is a replica, but I'm not sure if everything down here is a replica of anything in particular, or if they just kind of designed it with that style in mind. There's a nice little zigzaggy section coming up here now. I'm sure it has a name that I'm not aware of, kind of like the S's in the Watopia map. But these are rollers, definitely tough, because there's ups and downs and undulations and people trying to put in a little dig, and you have to stick with them. But at this point, I'm looking at the clock, and I know in this pack now, this is the pack. There's no one else joining. So at this point, how many riders are there is kind of what's going through my mind. And I'm trying to count, but I'm not able to, things aren't staying still. I've been changing the camera angles. I just kind of look up at the position, and I pay attention to that as best I can. And I can see I'm in 6th. And I know there's a few people behind us, so I'm figuring the pack is anywhere between 10 and 15 riders. And in this section here, I'm just trying to hang on, make sure that I don't lose any wheels. And you can see I do break off the back a little bit, but it kind of stretches out and starts to look a little bit like one of the team time trial events that they do on the platform, where you just have a string of people going, and they're all one right after another, and they're just flowing seamlessly through the course. Those are put on Thursday night by WTRL, which is another race league. So this is the Zwift League, and then there's the WTRL League, and then there's Flemme Rouge League, and there's a number of other leagues as well. I have not yet explored them all. I know my team has a league as well, the Herd. They have a climbing gambit series. I believe they have a sprinter series, and then they have just a regular crit series. I think they do broadcasts on Friday evenings, actually, with commentary, but I could be wrong. I've never watched it regularly. I think I watched it once or twice. One of my teammates, Terry, he's quite the sprinter. He's out in Vancouver, and I tuned in a couple times to watch him. Actually, he's one of the people who I first asked about how to do the streaming stuff. Now, he does a different style. He streams himself live while on the bike. I think there's enough of that out there, so I would rather do this commentary, kind of give a little bit of overall general cycling knowledge along with the content, and that way people might find some benefits. So here we are, we're into the first selection point, and you can see right away that the front group is going at quite the pace. I'm asking myself, what the hell's going on? I'm up in the 300s, and they're pulling away again. Change my gearing, make sure everything's all right. But I'm thinking just stay in the draft, try to get 3 guys in front of you. We're going at a fast enough pace. It's going to be advantageous. And halfway through the climb, there's like a little plateau here that we're in. And I'm trying to get in the draft, but you can see my rider, he's just hanging out there a little bit on the left. This is where having the steering would come in handy, but I don't think it's a steering-enabled event anyway, so probably wouldn't help in this instance. It's one of the things in the game where if you do have steering and in a situation like that arises, you certainly can catch an advantage being able to move around the road. Starting to fall off the back, and then, of course, I see this coffee stop. I'm starting to learn that a lot of people are using this kind of as a cheating tactic. I shouldn't say cheating. It's not cheating. I mean, the only person that they're cheating is themselves, because at the hardest sections of any of these courses, what they do is they turn this on, and their rider is basically in autopilot, so it'll go the same pace as everyone else, and they don't have to be pedaling. So some of them I'm sure are legitimate. You can see I'm doing 320 watts. Everybody's riding away from me. So two of them are deploying this tactic. This would end if I didn't get over the top of the group. It goes into a steep descent, so I knew I'd have to get on the back of that pack or I was going to lose. So this is probably the most dramatic moment of the race. Me chasing on. I have to use basically both power-ups that I had. I had the feather to try to get me over the top as close as I could to them, and then on that descent there, I pumped out and used the arrow so that I could try to close the gap as well. And in my head, I'm just trying as hard as I can. If I can just get on the back of the pack, things will ease up, because you can see I'm doing 350, and then I'm coming down, and then I'm doing, I'm floating definitely at or above threshold, and definitely a lot above threshold. Finally, I caught up with them, and there's a little bit of chatter going on. This guy here, he's just a troll. That message that he just sent through, basically what he said is, hey, sorry I used the coffee on the climb, but my doctor told me to keep things in zone 1, and yeah, everyone's like, zone 1, what are you talking about? There's no way you're in zone 1. So what I mean by that is, when you're training, there's a methodology to it. There's the 7 zone model a lot of us use, and zone 1 would be the very first zone. So this is like, if I go for a walk, that would be zone 1. Maybe up to a strenuous walk is zone 1. I'm keeping my eye on that guy. I can tell he's trolling, or I think he's trolling, but I'm giving him the benefit of it at the same time. I try not to be too cynical. I'm at 142, which for me, that's basically upper zone 2, lower zone 3. And I spike quite a bit during this event as well, right? Like, if I stay under my threshold, my 165, my heart rate drops really fast when I stop doing work. But zone 1, there's no way you're not doing zone 1. And the rider's name is funny. I kept looking over at his name, and it was El Efe. In Spanish, Efe means boss. He's definitely a boss, all right, if he's doing zone 1. This is a zone 1. He'd be a pro. There's the second time up the aqueduct, and now at this point, we are more than halfway through the event. I can see there's about 4 to 6 of us. Good old El Jefe, and then I start noticing the name Swenson, and I noticed the name Schneider, and then I noticed the name Beck, and I had a back and forth with Beck because he kind of let us know he'd be leaving at 1 hour, so I know he's dropping out of the group, and that's what I'm starting to say now. Is like, now that we're approaching the hour mark, I'm like, I wonder how many of these riders are going to be in this event from now until the finish line, because I've done it before. I've joined an event. I only was supposed to ride for an hour. I'll do the first hour of the event, and then boom, I'll quit and exit out. So here's the sunflowers on the left side. Sorry, this is unique to the French course. Really nice visual reminder that you're in the countryside. As with everything, reminds me of back home. When I was a kid, my mom had 2 or 3 big sunflowers on the side of our house. So it always reminded me of that a little bit. The other guys now that I'm thinking about is Reynolds. So I noticed that name right away. Very familiar name to me. I used to have Reynolds rims. I know a family whose last name's the Reynolds. I know them quite well. I spent a lot of time with them over the years. So I start to look at who the other riders are. At this point, I'm already 40k in, and I'm like, okay, this is much longer than the 27 that I had as a target the other day. This group isn't quite as fast. I don't think we're going quite as fast as they were, but we've got a huge gap to the group behind us. Like, if you look down, you can see that the next group back is almost 3 minutes back. I think they're 249, 250. So that's a huge gap. Even though we're not going super duper fast, we're still going quite fast. And at this point, this is where we're starting to see people announce that they're going to be leaving for the hour. So everybody is now going to have to figure out, what are we going to do? There's one rider that earlier on went way up the road. Rodriguez from Portugal. He's got the green jersey and the polka dot jersey at the moment as well. He's way up the road. In my head, I've already said that's not real. Like that guy's not real. He might be in the game, he might be pushing up the road, but when it comes to the results, he's going to be disqualified. Once everyone starts announcing that they're leaving, I start asking the guys, hey, let's roll turns, let's push, let's see what we can do. I could tell right away that these two riders on the front, they were stronger than me. I wasn't able to come out of the third wheel a lot of the time. Maybe the second wheel. But when it comes down to it, I wasn't able to go to the front and do any pulls, which is what I would have wanted to do. I think I get one in early here, but now I'm just starting to watch everyone's behavior, how they ride. So I'm watching this guy in the front. He really likes to lead. So I'm like, yeah, you feel free to lead. That's Mr. Reynolds. Let him lead. And then this Swenson guy, he wants to do some work as well. So they're stronger than me, or maybe they're higher category than I am. Maybe they're upper A and I'm still lower A. But I noticed that the other guy, LFA, he's always at the back. He's always trying to be the last wheel. He's always sticking with us, but he's always the last wheel. And to me, that's the behavior of a savvy bike racer. That's somebody who understands that the winning moment is in the last 250 meters, not the first 61 kilometers. So I'm watching him really closely, and I'm telling myself, well, surely on the next climb when we get there, which is at 55 kilometers, he's going to fade off the back anyways because he can only do zone 1. So I start kind of discounting him and thinking to myself that he's a non-factor now, and now I'm fighting for a podium. I don't know whether or not the guy up front is legit or not. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe Zwift does like a, combine your time together and give somebody some sort of prize, or who knows. I don't pay attention to all the details. I just kind of do the same things that I've always done, which is log into the companion app, check out the events, join the events, and go in and do them. Okay, this is going to be a podium or fourth. And fourth is the worst position to be in. Well, second is kind of bad, but yeah, I guess fourth is the worst because even in that instance, you don't get any accolades. Whereas the first three, even if you're bronze, there's a lot to be said. There's only 2 guys better than you and you get a medal. But being fourth, that means there's 3 guys better than you and you get no medal. We're coming up. We got about 10K to go for the climb. Here we go. We can see that Pavé section. So all these stones. My trainer right now is going wild. And I'm just trying to stick with the crew. And I can see here, everyone is really working hard. So that, again, this feels like a team time trial. And what I'm doing here now is, now that I've kind of caught on to Mr. FA, I'm trying to make sure that he stays in front of me. I'm trying to out bike race him now, because if he is a savvy bike racer and he is going to make it up this climb, and if this was somebody doing just a zone 1 ride, then I'm going to benefit as much as I can from them. So you can see here, I'm trying to take it easy. I'm trying to make him close gaps. I know that he's been closing every gap. So you can see here, he closes the gap, and then I have to close the gap to him because he responded quite quickly, and I wasn't prepared for that. But yeah, we're just kind of in team time trial mode, trying to bring back the other person in front. And we can see that there's not much coming back, like 7 seconds after such a hard effort. And it just becomes kind of a joke. Everyone's like brutal. And I'm barely following the conversation in the discourse that's going on, because right there you can see, sorry, I can't contribute. I'm going my max here. Like, I know my heart rate's not showing it. I think that's because we're so late into the ride. But my legs aren't able to keep up. My heart is doing just fine. But the legs just, for some reason, they were starting to feel weak, especially right now around that, once everybody did that big push. It was bumping up from 3 watts per kilo up to 4 watts per kilo. It's quite a bit of gain. And then obviously I don't have a lot of time at this pace. I had the time trials in the other event, but besides that, really, I haven't had a lot of time at this pace at all. So that's why I'm not able to contribute and come over the top, and I'm just trying to stick to third wheel, because I'm telling myself, well, if I'm third wheel and the guy at the front is doing 4.7 watts per kilo, I can probably get away with 3.5 at the back. And I can save everything. I'm going to need it for the climb, because the last time up the climb, remember, I fell off the back, so I wasn't able to keep up with the people. So I'm telling myself, these are the two of the guys that were going up that climb the fastest. So if I'm going to stick with them to get my podium position, I've certainly got to make sure that I save as much energy as I have from now to then. And I've got to do a couple little digs, especially in these squirrely sections, or the S's type section. But I definitely am trying to make sure there's at least two riders in front of me, if not all three. And we can see I drop off and I let them go, and then I come back. And yeah, now it's starting to be cat and mouse. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to get maximum benefit from these people. They're going to drag me as far as they can or will. And I'm going to stay with them, and we'll see what happens at the finish line. And I'm still trying to contribute by giving them, I can't contribute by riding on the front, but I can contribute by giving them the points of interest along the course. So letting them know that there's a sprint coming up at 53K. I think I send through what time the KOM comes up as well. I have to select what I can type and get it out as fast as I can. So usually what I try to do is do it within a kilometer of whatever the point of interest coming is. But I'm trying to switch between the messenger, the screen that shows you your power, and the place where you can use your power ups, and I'm trying not to fall off the back. Like, this is taking a lot more concentration than normal, and you can see there I almost dropped off, and I had to really, really spike up into the 400s to catch back on. And then when I caught back on, my whole goal was just get into the power that you're at the back of the pack with, like a 220, 230, 240-ish, in and around that plus or minus, and let them come around you, and then you'll already be doing the right amount of power, that as they're pulling past you, you can just continue to do that once you hit the third wheel or second wheel. So here we are. We've got the four of us are still left, but again, LFA, as far as I know, he's going to be a non-factor. I don't think he can make it up the climb at this point, because why would he use the coffee on the first climb? I don't buy his zone 1 thing. And we're going through these roller sections, and that's going to be at 53, and then we see that the KOM is coming up at 55. So just changing the camera angles, trying to make it a little bit more engaging, trying to make sure I can gauge how far away I am to that back wheel, and just focus on kind of getting to that back wheel and staying there. And again, letting Reynolds and Swenson do all the work that they can, and not relying too heavily on LFA, but sticking at the back, being able to stay upper zone 2, which is perfect, especially when we've got just under 10K to go. If I can do as much of that as possible from now to the end and save a little bit something for the end, that would be absolutely ideal for me. Even at this point, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to end in a sprint. At the end of the race is a 300-meter sprint. It's the last segment of the course. And thinking to myself, okay, in a mano-a-mano sprint, considering what I've seen all of these guys do going up the hill, and I haven't seen any of them do any sort of sprinting of any kind, because we've just been rolling through as a group, I still don't back myself. I'm like, I don't have a good sprint at all. I know I don't have a good sprint, so I'm just not going to bother dreaming of anything other than getting a 4th place right now. So is at this point the LFA tells everyone, oh, hey guys, I'm thanks, it was great riding with you, I'm out. And I'm watching and I'm like, okay, he's just gonna fade, so now it's 4th. But he always sticks there. He always sticks on the back. Like, he is doing all these things to try to affect us and how we're going to respond and how we're going to race, to give himself an advantage. So he's psychological mind games right now. So it's psychological warfare as far as I'm concerned. And I tell myself, well, let's see if he does actually make it up this climb, because all the psychological warfare aside, he's still got to be able to put out the effort to get around the course at the same effort as the rest of us, right? And we're already, as you can see there, we're an hour and 20 minutes in now. So most normal people aren't doing this much racing at once. Like, a lot of the races are 20K or 30K. Like, we're definitely we're double that right now. So he's definitely not unfit if he's staying with us, but I don't know that he's zone 1. And I think if you there's an app that exists out there. If you do this on a computer, it's called Sauce, and you can actually click on it and see. So you can see right here. Once I saw that, so we just crossed the beginning of the KOM, and he instantly puts on his coffee, and I'm like, first of all, I didn't know you could get 2 coffees in one ride, especially within an hour and 20 minutes. That's kind of, I have to learn more about the rules around this, but instantly he puts on the coffee, and as far as I can tell, what he's doing is he's just giving himself a break at the hardest part of it. This is the selection point of the race. So right here, this climb, this deep into the ride, by the time we're done it's 2.7 kilometers. So it started at 55 something. So by the time we get over the top, we're going to be at 58 kilometers, and then the end is 61. So it's like basically a downhill section, and then a little flat into the finish. So he's got the coffee on, and I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this guy, in my head, I'm cursing him quite a bit. I'm like, I mean, you can't say he's a cheater, but he's definitely like not. This is not in the spirit of good sport. Let's just put it that way, for him to be able to hit that button. But hey, maybe he's just pushing the limits and it's available, so he does it. But what I do is I want to know, does it keep him going the same pace when somebody breaks off the front of the group he was in? So I start to push really hard to get to the front of the group and to push everyone else to the front of the group. And sure enough, his little avatar latched onto me and pulled him back. But I'm thinking, push even harder, push as hard as you can. And you can see, boom, he had to come out of the coffee break. So that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to push him out of the coffee break, because I just didn't like, I had enough anger in me to use as fuel, and I didn't like what he was doing. So, but now I'm on the back of the pack, and I'm thinking to myself, did I just do myself a disservice by trying to surge past him at 330 watts just to see what could happen? I mean, in the long run, it's going to be the better route, because I'm going to know exactly what happens with those coffee breaks and how you counteract them if people are going to be using them like this. So at this point, now it's a survival game, and I'm saying to myself, okay, I'm in the right gearing, I'm going about the right pace, but I know, again, when we get to the top here, it's basically going to go down into a descent, so I have to stay with this group. And I knew that there was that little cobble section, so I definitely put in an effort there. And then again, now what I'm trying to do is see, can that guy stay with us? And I'm putting in a couple of hard efforts, because you know, I'm in the front pack now, and I'm like, let's see what I can do. There's only a couple K to go, so this pain is going to end soon. But I wanted to make use of my feather there as well. And I got over the top, and I was second fastest on the day, barely slower than the guy that was up front, like 0.2 seconds. And then here we go, the group is starting to descend, and I'm with them this time. They didn't gap me, and everybody instantly is using their power-ups. I believe what happened is those guys pushed the power-up that they had previously so that they could get another one as we went over the top of the KOM. And I got the perfect one. I got the arrow helmet. So with this going downhill and with this ending with a flat sprint, I was now asking myself, what's the best way to use this? Should I do an attack while on a descent with this, and then utilize that and push into the line with a breakaway? But then I'm saying to myself, no, these guys were doing... sorry, there we go again. He's telling us that he used the coffee break again, and now he's dropping off. and everybody else thinks the coffee was hilarious. Like, there's a little bit of banter going on here, but I've already told myself that don't believe anything this guy says. Consider the fact that he is in this group and he is trying to beat you. So now, like I said, in my head, I'm asking myself, when's the best time to deploy this Aero helmet? We got 1.6k to go, and I'm pushing at the front just to keep the pace up. And I did tell that guy, soft pedal, like, get off. Like, just get off the group, soft pedal. And he's like, yo. He's not soft pedaling. Look at, he's sticking right with us. He's trying to stay right with us. So I want to put the pace at the front a little bit higher now that it's in the final, like, kilometer and a half. So I just go to the front. I do the power that I was doing in the group before, making sure, pushing people to the front, and then kind of baiting people into taking over. Like I said earlier, I recognize that this gentleman here, he liked being on the front. So if you like being on the front, feel free. I'll let you pull me to the end. And now we got less than a kilometer to go, and I can't see where the other two guys are. So I let up a little bit to see if either of them come past me. But then I just know what he does, so I go. I kick with 200 and some meters to go. And as I'm kicking, I push in my Aero boost. And I get up to, I think it was a max of 650, but I held a good 560, 570. Crossed the line. In the event, I crossed the line in second. I beat the next person by 0.048 seconds. And then, as anticipated, the gentleman at the front of the race was disqualified. So what we just saw was my first ever Category A event win. I came first place overall, and really shocked. Didn't think I could do that. I'll take the win while I got it. I'm pretty excited and ecstatic about that. I really glad to see that I was able to stay there, and it's half power and physiology and half mental. And I was there that day. I felt really good. There were ups and downs, of course, but I just wanted to see what I could do on the day. I have a high-end goal, like really ambitious. So that was like, oh, maybe I can come into this thing and podium. And then I have more realistic goal, which, as I mentioned earlier, it was like, okay, I stayed with the front group for 27 kilometers. Maybe today I can do 37 or 40. And then I have a really low goal, which is just like, okay, I want to make sure I finish this event with a certain amount of output. Like, I want to get off the bike and say, out of 10, that was an 8 or a 9 or a 10. And that was today, it was a 9. I wanted to make sure I got off the bike and felt like a 9. As you're feeling out the event, or as I'm feeling out the event, I start climbing the ladder of those ambitions. And in this event, I not only made the podium, but I won. Hard work pays off. That's it for this one. Thanks for joining, and thank you so much for all of the comments and likes. I appreciate everything. A great race, great event. Very happy. Stage 5 coming up over the next 4-day block. See you guys out on course. Peace.